Hey guys, we're going to talk about how G2 was able to dominate banana control and why it's so important to do, because ultimately this was a huge decider map for winning the grand final. So let's take a deeper look on this episode of Smarter CS Pro Plays. So to start, let's talk about what Vitality is going to be trying to do, which is to take upper banana control. So first they're going to start off by mollying Car. And then as they get closer to half wall, they're going to molly off the entrance to B as well as the sandbags to the right. Since top banana control is so important, which we'll talk about in more detail later, G2 is going to do everything they can to retake that space, and I'll show you how they pull it off. So as you just saw, Hunter's going to be throwing a molly that lands behind half wall. He's also going to be throwing a pop flash that lands on top of the roof, and Mobs is going to throw a staggered flash that also lands in the same spot. Lastly, he's going to be smoking off the entrance to banana to make it easier to hold that entire space after. So from this angle, you'll be able to see everything at once. After the Car molly starts to fade, you'll notice that the T's molly the entrance and sandbags at the same time that the CT's molly behind half wall. So you'll notice that both teams played this perfectly with the mollies blocking off any type of exit, but what ended up being the difference was the flashes that came through. You'll see from Flame's perspective that he's actually playing anti-flash, but he turns after the first one pops and completely eats the second one. You'll actually see that the exact same thing happens to ZywOo as well. As he dodges the first flash, he tries to smoke this molly and run through, but after being full blind, his support is just way late. So now let's take a look at the utility that G2 throws that really makes this possible. First, he gets on top of Coffin, and he's going to try to time his molly so that it lands at the same time as the Car molly extinguishing. So you want to aim at this plant about brick high, but if you go a little higher or a little lower, it'll still work. Just don't forget to do a jump throw. Now this flash lineup is super easy if you just aim at the corner of this roof and do a left click. Next, for the deep banana smoke, find this little bracket on the corner of these boxes and do a jump throw. Now what I would have loved to have seen is Hunter throwing one more piece of utility. If you get up onto the coffins here and you aim at that same little bracket spot and you do a running jump throw, you can nade right down at half wall, which is exactly where ZywOo was, making that fight super easy even if he wasn't half blind and smoked off. So here's another round where they aggressively try to take banana control, and instead of Hunter going to B to support, he throws this smoke from CT spawn that lands halfway down banana. To throw this, you want to come in front of this chair here, and then you want to aim at this spot on the windowsill. Then do a jump throw. With that, Mobs is going to nade down banana and then molly right in front of the half wall, and he's going to get ready to peek off of Mattis's flash. So this would probably be enough to take banana control from most teams, but given this is Vitality, they make it really difficult. But even with losing Mobs, you'll see that they actually have a bunch of tricks up their sleeve. So typically I see a play like this paired with a little bit more aggression, but I think because he was solo on site, he was really just trying to slow them down and set them up for the next play. So you may have more commonly seen this play by coming up to here, looking down on this pipe, throwing a smoke with a left and right click at the top of this, and then throwing a molly at the bottom of this darker pipe. Typically what makes this play so strong is there's only really two options for the T's. They can either push into you, or they can kind of sit on the edge of the smoke by the back of the car. So if you right click a flash, a lot of times you'll pop flash people trying to get out of the molly. But I really like this setup from Mattis where you don't have to climb up on these boxes. So if you just get into this corner, then match the bottom of this bracket with the piece of tarp on the right, you'll see that if you just do a regular jump throw from the preview, that it doesn't land where we want it to land. But if you do a W jump throw, like you do when throwing instant window smokes on Mirage, you'll see it lands on top of this half wall. For those of you new to that, you basically just want to press forward and jump at the same time while you're doing your jump throw. Now from the same spot, you want to find this middle bracket and you want to do a W jump throw again. And I can say from personal experience that that's a lot more convenient than jumping up onto those boxes. But we're dealing with Vitality, so again they've managed to avoid the utility and still take the space that G2 is working so hard to gain. So this is where Hunter comes in again. First he's going to give his nade to Mattis, which is going to do some chip damage and actually delay them a little bit. And then he's going to set up for another pop flash to retake Banana. So you can tell all three of these guys got fully blind, but it also squandered any ability for them to execute on B. I also love the way Hunter played this because they know he threw those flashes, so they're probably expecting him to be Coffin, but he's already up here on top of first orange and they just don't expect it. Not only that, but Sampaius throws a pop flash for him, making it that much more guaranteed that he wins this fight. So I think that the way G2 went about taking Banana control was a big part of the reason that they won Inferno and ultimately ended up winning the grand final. The reason I believe that Banana control is so important is it prevents the other team from executing on you. If they can get up to Car and they can molly off all of the site and they can smoke Coffin and CT, it just makes it really hard to hold, and it's the last defense at that point. Whereas with Banana control, you can fight for it, but even if you lose it or even if you have to give it up, you can still fall back to another choke point. And by that time, they might not have any utility left to actually do a proper execute on B, making the site way easier to hold. And last but not least, it allows you to play Counter-Strike on your terms and peek on your flashes instead of trying to avoid all of their utility.